Scared for reals.
Hey, it's Chris O'Neill.
And Adam Perry.
All right. Alien Romulus is now in theaters, and it's a direct sequel to the original 1979 Alien movie. Unfortunately, Adam, you didn't get to see this yet.
Not yet, but I plan to.
It is actually a lot better than I expected. But before we get into Alien Romulus, again, subscribe, like, so you never miss an episode. We do our best to get these uploaded once a week. So if you subscribe, you'll know instantly when there's a new episode for you to listen to. Again, eventually we'll get video. But in the meantime, whether you're working, relaxing, we've got a deep dive into Alien Romulus. And obviously, spoiler alert, because we're going to discuss this whole film from beginning to end.
All right.
So yeah, Alien Romulus, it's highly anticipated. Whenever there's a new Alien movie, you've got a lot of fans of the franchise that flock to it. And I got to tell you, Adam, I was not excited about the new Alien Romulus.
It's hard to get excited about these movies when you've been disappointed so many times with the sequels. I mean, I'll be honest, like I said in for those of you who have not yet realized, this is part 2 of, we've already discussed the original Alien, and as I said earlier, after the first one, I kind of checked out after watching Aliens.
So you did see Aliens.
I did see Aliens, but I kind of checked out with the franchise. It just wasn't anything I was interested in continuing, but knowing where it went and all the Alien vs. Predator movies really kind of watered down what the xenomorph is. And the impact that the xenomorph has on it. So I really hope...
Well, and the whole thing with Ripley, it was done so well in the first 2.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of... You had to suspend disbelief with, she was frozen for 57 years and she comes back, and it's like, okay, we'll go with it. It was entertaining. It was actually a really good sequel. If you're going to do a sequel, do it like Aliens, because it was really solid. But then afterwards, it's like... I think she gets frozen again. I saw clips of Alien 3 and it looked really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, David Fincher, brilliant director. That was his first movie. Thankfully, he made up for it 3 years later with 7, and then he went on to The Game, Fight Club, all those movies.
Yeah, no, I know a lot of people do like Alien 3.
It does have a following. It was pretty successful.
Yeah. Again, it's... I don't know. I liked the first one so much, I just kind of didn't.
And I have a good movie friend. Maybe sometime I'll have him on the show, because we used to banter back in, one of my roommates in college. And, he is more, he's not a snob like I am when it comes to movies. Mm-hmm. He's like you in a lot of ways. He'll go and watch a movie, even if it's the 10th or 12th or 18th or 20th sequel. He'll still go and support the franchise. Like, he loves Star Wars, still does, even through all of the abominations that have been coming out the past couple of decades.
Yeah, I mean, I'll support a franchise to a degree,
right? But I mean, he will too.
Yeah,
he will too. But he actually liked Alien 3.
Yeah,
he used to pick on me about it, and then Alien Resurrection, he did not like that one. And so, okay, it's one thing if he likes Alien 3 and I don't, but if he doesn't like a movie in a franchise, I pay attention to that more closely. So I purposely didn't watch it, and I probably, again, I'm a snob, and I probably should have watched it anyways. Mm-hmm. But it's just, remember in Aliens, they mentioned her daughter dies.
Right.
Because she was in a coma for 57 years. Well, somehow her daughter comes back in Alien Resurrection. It's in the title, I guess, but... And then I kind of lose track. I got kind of excited because Ridley Scott came back to direct Prometheus.
Right. Yeah.
And that actually wasn't too bad, Adam.
I think I did see Prometheus. I can't.
Yeah. I mean, Idris Elba and Charlize Theron play off each other really well. Yeah. But it kind of dragged. Yeah. It just kind of went on and on and on and on and on and on. And the same problem I had with Alien Covenant. That one wasn't as memorable to me. Mm-hmm. The whole giving birth to an alien, that was like, okay.
Yeah.
it was a little...
Yeah.
Because Prometheus and Alien Covenant are precursors to the Alien.
Let me ask you before we go too much further. Let me, because we saw them do this with Halloween when the David Gordon Green series trilogy happened. How do you feel about these franchises, Chris? Wiping out their sequels and doing like a brand new direct sequel to the original. I'm not saying like they what they did here is wipe out the sequels like Halloween did, but they're definitely jumping over the other sequels to make a brand new sequel that would directly follow what the original was, similar to what Halloween did.
Yeah, and also similar to Rogue One, which
exactly.
And Rogue One was actually, out of all of the Star Wars films, in the past 20 years, that one was probably the one I liked the best. And this one was actually pretty entertaining for the most part. Again, you have to suspend disbelief at certain scenarios, and there's some cliche moments. Very predictable, very, very predictable. But it was entertaining. He kept a lot of the same vibe from the original. And,
and that's what I felt about the first David Gordon Green Halloween. Was they kept a lot of the same vibe. They brought the old feeling back to Halloween, and then they totally lost me on the two sequels. But again, do you think this is a smart move in Hollywood, or do you how do you feel about it?
I honestly, I don't. I'm not a huge fan of sequels to begin with, Adam.
Right.
It doesn't matter franchise or what. If you're going to bring something to the table, though, that feels fresh, do it like what James Cameron did in Aliens. You know what I mean?
Right.
Bring something that's like going to be good.
Right.
Because there's a lot of stuff that's just rehashed and redone, and we're going to create a sequel. Like they did that with Rogue One, right after the events of the first one. It was done well. It was interesting, but it easily could have been like, it was unnecessary to begin with. But when you're watching it, you're entertained, you go with it. Mm-hmm. If they do something like that where it's actually entertaining and solid and you don't have too many hands in the pie, I think that's another thing.
I was just kind of curious because I know, again, in terms of Halloween, like my brother didn't like what David Gordon Green, because it's like, well, now we have to ignore that they have 11 sequels. It's like, I can do that. I can pretend that, some people can't.
Well, but this hasn't been done in the Alien franchise, as far as I know.
Yeah,
they've gone off in
this is
completely
kind of
different directions.
Yeah, this is kind of a new thing. That's why I brought it up. It's kind of a new avenue for sequels and storytelling in Hollywood.
Yeah,
to go back to the original content and make a new movie that's directly after the original movie. Even though it might have a couple sequels to it.
Yeah.
So, and I was just curious on your opinion.
Well, I don't think anyone was necessarily asking for this.
Right.
No one was screaming, "Hey, can you do a direct sequel to Alien?" But it wasn't that bad. I was very surprised. Again, after Prometheus, Alien Covenant, I was just kind of okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, Ridley Scott is a brilliant filmmaker. I'm not taking anything away from him. I mean, I'm glad he oversaw this one.
Right.
Because I know...
Yeah, he's got a producer credit, right?
Yeah, and he did the same thing with Blade Runner 2049, which I didn't think that was necessary, and then now they got Blade Runner 2099 that they're working on too, and it's like, okay. I'm not a huge fan of franchises. I'm not a huge fan of sequels to begin with. Because if you force a sequel that's not necessary just for money purposes... I think that happens a lot, but if you present it in a way that seems fresh and seems cool, like, again, Aliens is probably one of the best sequels of a franchise.
Right.
I think it's, you could argue it's up there with Empire Strikes Back on the quality
of sequels. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I can agree with that. I mean, but I'll also, I appreciate sequels a little bit more than you do. I don't think it's just necessarily a money cash in. If there's a fan demand for it, why not?
Yeah, but if you're going to do it, at least do it in the way that Empire Strikes Back was done, Aliens. Try. I mean, obviously you can't outdo something like that, but at least bring something that seems fresh. Like Evil Dead 2 was very entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
And
if you can call Evil Dead 2 a sequel.
Yeah, it's
more of a remake than a...
No, it's a sequel, kind of. Not really a remake.
It's got
the same kind of storyline, but
it's like half remake, half original, half comedy, half...
Yeah. And that's what it was meant to be.
Right.
It's meant to be like, okay, we're going to do the same thing again, but make it more interesting with, hand that thinks by itself. And
right.
But again, that was something that was entertaining, and a lot of people went with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, again, did anyone want an Evil Dead sequel? Look at all the Evil Deads.
Clearly they did. They would, or else they wouldn't have made it.
Well, I think people will go to it just because the Evil Dead name is on it, just like Halloween. It's a nostalgia thing. It's a name you're familiar with. You're comfortable. It's something you're familiar with. So people who were a fan of those movies, you put Evil Dead on it, you put Alien on it, you put Halloween, Star Wars. People will go anyways, even if they hate what they've been doing lately, just because it's familiar, and that's the way it's always been.
It's still fan demand.
I guess, but I mean,
no, you guess. You just said it yourself. If you're a fan of the franchise, you're going to go see it regardless.
Yeah, right.
It's a fan demand. They want more.
Oh, but the thing is, are there a lot of people though clamoring for more and more of the same, or they're going to go?
Yeah,
they're going to go anyways. Yeah. That's the thing. So give them something good. And
but all right. But do you think you don't just go into a movie thinking that it's not going to be good? I mean, execution by the end of the movie, maybe it's not a good movie, but I don't think there's anybody in this world that starts production on a movie thinking it's going to suck.
Well, no, but they're doing it for the money. They're not doing it for the passion.
Well, how do you know? You're not the writer. You're not. Okay. You're a brand new kid on the block, and Mustafa Akkad says, "Hey, dude, I'm going to give you a shot. Write me the new Halloween." Are you doing it for the money, or are you doing it because this is the shot of a lifetime?
Probably both.
If you're a first-time
director,
starving artist, you're getting,
just like Coppola, Scorsese, all of them, they wanted money, and they wanted a shot, and Roger Corman gave it to them, and so they wanted both. They wanted to do something that Roger Corman asked them to do, but they also know if I'm successful here, I could potentially be going on to bigger things.
You're just not going to give them crap because it's.
I'm not giving anyone crap. I
meant you're not going to turn in a crap movie or thinking that it's going to be a crap movie just because it's a sequel.
No, but I mean, Scorsese doing Boxcar Bertha, he knew that was not his forte. He did it because he wanted a shot, he wanted money, so he did it, hoping to go on to bigger things, and he did.
Okay.
So that's why these people are doing it, is because they want a shot. You're right. You're absolutely correct. I'm not arguing that. But they're also doing it for money. They need money.
Well, everybody needs money.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
So you're going to be doing
but you're arguing that the sequel is just purposely for a money grab and they don't care what's put out. And my argument is I don't think there's any writer or director that takes on a sequel project and just writes crap because they need the money.
Well, first of all, from different things I've read, what you see on paper doesn't get translated into what goes on film. They change it several times.
Sure.
So a lot of times they get credit for it.
Right.
But it's not their work anymore anyways.
Right. Well, I mean, and now we're getting into the politics of the movie business.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of politics involved in it.
Right.
Yes, you've got, I mean, that's how all these amazing filmmakers start, is they have to start from the bottom, and some of them make it, a lot of them don't. And they're writing something so they can make money, and so they can hopefully go on to bigger and better things.
But
the studios are constantly churning this out because their mindset is it doesn't matter how good the movie is. They put the Halloween thing on the title. They put the Friday the 13th, the Nightmare on Elm Street, the Alien, the Terminator, whatever. People will still go see it because it's something that the audience is familiar with. Even if they don't really want to see it, they're familiar with it. It's comfort for them. They're not stepping out of their comfort zone. That's just that's the way I'm telling you. The studio execs. I can't think every thought that they process. Obviously, I can't read minds, but it just seems like the way these franchises are handled, Adam. Mm-hmm. Most of them are not handled with care. They're really not.
No. I agree with that.
Yeah, because my only, politics involved.
My only point of this little debate here, Chris, was when you say if you're going to do a sequel, at least make something good.
Yeah.
My only my thing is I don't think anyone starts production of a movie not intending it to be good.
They're doing what they're told to do. If a studio wants a Halloween movie made or a new Alien movie made, you're going to make the movie they want, not the movie you want. You know what I mean? It's there's no love or the creativity is kind of fizzled in the mainstream Hollywood. There is original ideas out there, but they're more independent. Look at all of the horror films that have come out this year, Adam, that are cost like a few, maybe 15, 20 million, and they're huge, huge successes. Late Night with the Devil. You have A Violent Nature. Unfortunately, the dramas, those smaller independent drama films, action films, they're not as successful. Seems like the niche independent horror film has been on a huge surge the past couple of years.
Well, horror's popular. It's a date movie stuff.
Well, yeah. Well, I know. But again, in A Violent Nature, we had something new, something the audiences haven't seen before. It felt fresh. You know what I mean? Some people. But again, I just remember, was it 2021? There was I think the second Halloween movie in that franchise
trilogy.
Trilogy,
the David Gordon Green. Yeah.
Manager at a movie theater literally said how many people complained. Oh, the movie sucked. And there, right next to it, you had Last Night in Soho, a cool concept that was it had a couple homages to 60s horror films. Bombed. It was quality movie, and then you had a franchise because everyone knew what they were going to get with a Halloween movie. So,
or you could just it just has a massive fan base that everybody was excited for.
Well, I mean, but the thing is, you have been disappointed, but with several of the Halloween sequels. But you like the name and you like the franchise for the most part, so you're going to keep going. Even if the movie is not that good, you'll still go and see it, right? That's all I'm trying to say.
I mean, yeah, if I'm a fan of something, I'm going to go see it. I mean, it doesn't mean it's a like comfort food. I'm a fan of the franchise. Yeah, I mean, you'll see it.
Yeah, and but I'm just saying this. I'm not. This is what the studios think. The studios think, okay, we got the Halloween name, we're going to churn it out, and we know it's going to make money. And they're right. They make money, but not very satisfying for everybody.
No, it's just like any movie. It's hit or miss.
Yeah. I just.
Again, it's just my only point I was just trying to make. I didn't mean to take into such a. It was just I don't think anyone ever intends to go make a sequel. Well,
you kind of wonder though. That's all I'm saying is it makes you wonder. The studios keep churning out a lot of this the same old, and it's like, can we get something fresh out of these franchises? Mm-hmm. This actually felt kind of refreshing.
And this is what I'm talking about, and this is why I approached you with the initial question: how do you feel about them doing this, wiping out, not even necessarily wiping out the other sequels, but starting from the original point
Yeah.
and trying to, and going from there.
Yeah, and if it was done right, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I have the unlimited membership, so I can kind of comfortably sacrifice my time, and hopefully it's not a waste of my time. Time is valuable. You don't get the time back if you watch a stinker.
Right.
You really don't. And there's been a lot of stinkers this year. Hollywood has churned out. They stink. There's been a lot, and again, the way out of that seems like the branches of Sony, the branches of Universal, they've released some interesting films that are not blockbusters. So it'd be nice to see more of that, and maybe a movie that, oh, well, this actually looks good. I didn't expect something like this, but hopefully we get more of that instead of like, it just seems like there's just too many sequels, too many franchises, and too many of those kind of movies all the time. And it's running a lot of people ragged. I mean, yes, Wolverine, Deadpool was an exception. It seems like that's charmed a lot of the fans, but there are fans of the Marvel that have been really upset and disappointed, and it seemed like the fans were ignored for the past 5 years. It's like they completely ignored their fan base, and that's why the movies are bombing.
They didn't this time.
No.
Yeah.
No. We'll see. We'll see how
from
it's
the
handled
sounds of it,
going
all
forward.
the reviews I've read, they've given the fans exactly what they've wanted in the last 5 years.
Well,
For the
first time in 5 years.
first time in 5 years. Yeah.
Because they've had some good opportunities with some different like Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings and overbloated and But anyway,
so what did you like about this new Aliens?
It had the same kind of vibe as, I mean, Ridley Scott produced it, so he had.
You would hope some influence from him would be in there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was.
Yeah.
Like I heard comments like the filmmaker Fede Alvarez. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing his first name right, but Fede Alvarez, who he revived the Evil Dead franchise a decade ago. That's what he's noted for. Ridley Scott was just adamant, let's not make this one suck. And
yeah,
I mean, Prometheus and Alien Covenant were a step above a lot of the Alien sequels that have been churned out. But it's like, I love Ridley Scott's Blade Runner, and that I will always love the most out of Ridley Scott's work. And I mean, Alien's right up there too. This was surprisingly really good. I can't put my finger on it other than that I really loved what Fede Alvarez did with it. So let's start off with the plot. Again, there are some things I had issues with, but we'll get into that as we discuss the plot. You've got a space probe investigating the wreckage, the Weyland-Yutani. They want to know what happened with Nostromo from the first film, because the whole point was the xenomorph remains for research. That was, remember that secret mission that Ash was programmed to do?
Yeah.
Enter this young orphan named Rain. She works with her adoptive brother, who's a reprogrammed synthetic human. Yeah, like he didn't like to be called like a robot or anything like that. She works at the mining colony's Jackson Star, okay? And her contract is unexpectedly extended, which gives like, this is a dictatorship, hey, you have a contract for this. Oh, but we just extended it to another several years, and so she's kind of stuck to, and of course there's people speaking out against slave labor and all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of, this is post-apocalyptic, tyrannical society.
Right.
Kind of, I don't want to say echoes our times, but what could potentially happen if we keep going down this road, which, that's what these authors and artists try to warn people about, is the potential for people getting a little too carried away with their power.
Right.
So that's basically how the movie starts off. She finds her contract is extended, and she agrees to join her ex-boyfriend on a salvage mission to kind of derelict the spacecraft to retrieve cryonic stasis chambers. I had to read that because of all the scientific mumbo jumbo. So these chambers will allow her and her friends, which includes this kind of outspoken cocky guy named Tyler and his pregnant sister Kay and her cousin Bjorn and a girlfriend and all this kind of stuff. A lot of different characters. You don't get to know all of their backgrounds.
Right.
You're kind of thrown into this just like you were in the first Alien. You didn't know all of their backgrounds either, although I think it was better written and better executed in the first one.
Okay.
The kind of the introduction of all this stuff is kind of a mess. Mm-hmm. To be honest, you get all these characters and they're not introduced as memorably as they were in the first Alien movie.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got Rain and her friends, Tyler and his pregnant sister, the cousin, the girlfriend. They all escape. They want better living conditions. And that's when things start taking off, is when they fly the mining hauler to the spacecraft, which is revealed to be a divided research station called Romulus and Remus. And while they're trying to retrieve these stasis chambers, Tyler, Bjorn, and Andy accidentally revive frozen facehuggers, which triggers an automatic lockdown.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, to override it, Rain, she installs a chip from a damaged android into her android brother, gaining him access to the station and repairing the system malfunctions. But it also resets his loyalties to serve that company, Weyland-Yutani. As the group flees the chamber, the facehugger latches onto one of them, and of course, Rain reactivates the station's science chief officer named Rook, who discloses that the station's crew was killed by the xenomorph and its clones. And it's interesting how they renamed Rook, because it was Ash in the original. Like what they did we were talking about Rogue One as far as respectable sequels.
Yeah.
But they digitally put Peter Cushing's face in that one, remember?
Yep.
Well, they did the same with Ian Holm with Ash. Apparently Rook is this guy's name, which is obviously a play to the word bishop. Remember Lance Henriksen's android in the Aliens?
Yeah.
Rook, bishop.
Yeah.
I mean, you really have to have someone explain it to you. Oh, that's right, because it's not that obvious. To me, it wasn't. So they reenact the science officer android Rook, who talks about how his station's crew was killed by the xenomorph and its clones, and he says that this particular one is beyond saving. So while Tyler tries to remove the creature, Rook warns it may have implanted a seed already. And despite Andy's attempts to stop him, Bjorn flees with Navarro on the spacecraft that they came up with originally. Well, they don't really make it that far, obviously.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. The chest burster emerges, so they've got an homage to the original. Mm-hmm. It's obviously more gory, more detailed than the...
Right, probably more CGI.
Oh, of course, CGI.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what they did with Ian Holm. Hopefully his estate got a good chunk of change for all this.
Yeah, but I mean, again, you're
I know it's frustrating.
Me with the CGI. So I mean, I guess I can argue you're bringing back a deceased actor for a cameo compared to something that works so effectively.
Oh, I know.
As a practical effect.
Well, do you remember Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow back in 2004? Mm-hmm. Do you remember that awful movie?
Yep.
I mean, they brought in Laurence Olivier, who's been dead for decades, and it's like, what are you doing? Why did you have to do Laurence Olivier? There was nothing in the world that made me think, oh, we need Laurence Olivier's face in this villain.
Right.
Just like, do we really need to bring back Ash and Rook? I mean, to me, it wasn't.
I mean, if it serves the story, I mean, like, I understood why they did it in Rogue One, because it's literally you're walking into the very beginning of A New Hope.
Yeah.
So
they're trying to destroy the Death Star before it becomes too dangerous.
Yeah. So, so, I mean, so I guess, as you're doing if it makes sense, it makes sense. But
I mean, it's like they call him something completely different, though. There's no reference.
That I don't understand. I mean, that I don't understand, but
yeah. Well, and the CGI is good to a certain degree, and I mean, who else to make it seem like it's the same, destructible android from the original,
right?
But it's like, it's also very frustrating, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why they changed.
It's very distracting. They did that with Carrie Fisher too in that movie,
in Rogue One.
Yeah, and it's very distracting. It is distracting, and it was kind of. I mean, you get used to it after a while. You just go with it, and it's again not badly done. It's just that's one of my qualms with the movie as well is the artificial aspect of it. You can get too artificial. You can.
And I can go on for 3 hours about CGI versus practical effects, but
right.
So
Bjorn flees, with his friend, like got the face hugger on her, and of course Chestburster emerges, killing her immediately. Then you've got the pregnant friend and the cousin Bjorn aboard, crashes into the Romulus hangar, jeopardizing the station's orbit, leaving less than an hour before it collides with Jackson's planetary rings. Bjorn is soon killed. We were talking about the acid blood.
Yeah.
Well, you literally see the acid, melting the flesh, and got the gory. Yeah.
Cool.
Again, all artificial, but
of course.
So Rain, Andy, and Tyler, they're the only ones left. They navigate to the hangar bay while avoiding creatures. Technically there's 4 because Kay, the pregnant one, is still around. She escapes the spacecraft, but she's stalked by a xenomorph in some cool tension-filled scenes. I did enjoy those scenes where the xenophorb is lurking around somewhere. You don't know where, just like the original Alien.
Right, yeah.
You know the creature is there, but where?
Yeah.
That part I found very, very interesting. She's trying to lure, I guess the xenomorph is got more of a brain in this one, literally luring the rest of them into a trap where the xenomorph can kill all of them.
Right.
So despite Tyler's protest, Andy refuses to unlock the hangar door. And obviously, at this point, Andy has still got the chip in there, got to, follow the mission of the company before anything else. Mm. But he's also calculated, okay, if we open up and let the pregnant woman in, the rest of us are going to die.
Right.
So it's kind of like, it is very frustrating. But Andy refuses to unlock the hangar door, and they watch helplessly as the pregnant woman, Kay, is attacked and dragged away. Following his new loyalties, Andy finds samples of a fluid compound which Romulus Remus scientists had extracted from the xenomorphs, which Rook calls the Prometheus strain.
Uh-huh.
So there is there's kind of like an ode to the Prometheus movie.
Yeah.
Rook insists the samples must be brought to the colony and disables the spacecraft from leaving without them. So it seems like in this one, Rook has more power.
Yeah. More influence. Yeah.
Yeah, more influence. It seemed like he was easily subdued in the original one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously they've embellished a lot and they've kind of exaggerated a lot of things to make it work.
Right.
So at this point, I mean, Rook is still a very formidable villain here. And Rain and Tyler rescue the pregnant woman, their friend Kay, from a xenomorph cocoon. But Tyler is killed, and somehow the android is incapacitated. So at this point, Rain herself is badly injured, but she's the only one left, kind of like an ode to Ripley.
Right.
She's all alone. She's got to face the xenomorph and actually all the xenomorphs by herself.
Right.
So she injects herself. Well, actually, first off, before I get too much, I'm skipping ahead because the pregnant woman is still around. She injects herself with the fluid, and Rain is the only one that has like the sense of reason. Don't put this in your system because it's from the xenomorph, and you don't know what it can do to your system. So she's injected herself. She's pregnant. So you can probably guess what's going to come after this.
Another birth. Yeah.
Exactly. Again, I don't want to skip too far ahead because I'm trying to follow this from beginning to end. So Tyler is killed, as I said. Andy is incapacitated. So Kay injects herself with the fluid. Rain returns to the Romulus, saves Andy by removing the control chip, thus returning the loyalty to her. Because, I mean, Andy's created to serve her. That's his sole purpose. So kind of back to normal here. But she briefly disables the ship's gravity to fight off the xenomorphs. They make it back to the spacecraft just before the station crashes into the rings, destroying Rook and the xenomorphs along with it. So, just like the near the end of Alien, you think, all is going to be good.
Yeah. There's a twist.
There's always just like in the original.
Yeah.
I like the original ones better because you literally think the xenomorph is destroyed, but no. So as Rain and Andy prepare for their trip to Yavga, that was what their destination was. They needed to get fuel first, and they got the fuel, but man, all their friends and family were destroyed in the process here. Mm-hmm. But Kay is still around, okay? She's not dead, at least not yet. I feel like the Black Knight. I'm not dead.
Yeah, right.
Just a flesh wound. So Kay has now been affected by the fluid injection. She gives birth to a rapidly growing human xenomorph hybrid.
Interesting.
So Rook is already, as he even said in the original, the perfect specimen, the perfect being. Remember how he kind of mumbles that a little bit in the original? He makes it more clear in this one. So, she's now, Kay is killed because of this. Mm-hmm. And Andy is incapacitated again. He's kind of out of it. So Rain has got to fight this human xenomorph by herself. So she manages to eject the creature in a cargo pod into Jackson's rings, thus destroying the creature, regaining control of the ship. She places Andy in a status chamber and records a final log about the uncertain arrival at that particular planet before entering stasis or whatever herself. So kind of it flows just, there's a few twists that were not in the original, but there are some of the similar things, like she's the only survivor,
right,
along with the android who's kind of incapacitated himself, but got the white cream-like substance coming out of him. So,
oh boy, yeah.
So that's Alien Romulus. Again, it had a lot of cool vibes that really paid homage to the original Alien, which it was very respectable as far as sequels go. Mm-hmm. I didn't mind it. It actually wasn't that bad. I don't know if I'd watch it again, but I gave it a 3.5 stars or close to it. I mean, it's pretty solid. It's, again, a lot better than I expected. Mm-hmm. Still, I mean, the CGI and I wish there was a way we could control the usage of the artificial and the CGI stuff in the movies. It's like we've gone too far into that. It's unfortunate.
Right.
And again, we talked about Godzilla. That's what made the original one so good, is we knew it was humans,
right?
In the suit, not like a computer thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, I'm sure I've said this multiple times in past episodes. I mean, even just simple blood splatter, fake blood.
Right.
I mean, we've been using and coming up with fake blood since the dawn of acting in theater.
Yeah.
And to be so lazy now to do it all CGI, it's just to me it's just heartbreaking. It's
oh, I know.
It's like I said, it was so hard. And I always reference it. The first 15 minutes of the last Mortal Kombat movie, where Scorpion's being attacked by Sub-Zero's men, and you just see blood flying everywhere, and not one drop is on Scorpion's costume. It's like it was, was there Scotchgard in medieval Japan? It's like, it just, I don't know, it takes me out of it. It looks cartoonish. And again, to being an alien movie, knowing you're going to at least once recreate one of the most iconic scenes in cinema history, to not have the respect to do at least some of it practical.
Right.
For how iconic a moment that is in the movie is, it's sad. And I'm going to leave it at that because, again,
even the chest bursting scene, even though it was CGI, it was still pretty respectable. It wasn't like too over the top.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fede Alvarez did a good job of respecting the material, and it helps that Ridley Scott is still around,
right,
and can kind of rein him in since he's the producer,
right?
Because it's as much as this is a Brandywine and 20th Century Studios Disney, it's a Scott-free production,
right?
So Ridley Scott has a lot of say, more of a say than Fede Alvarez does.
Right.
So it's actually kind of cool that he can be guided and learn from. Let's face it, even with all of the less than stellar works that Ridley Scott has done, I mean, let's face it, he's a hit or miss. Mm-hmm. He's still an iconic, legendary filmmaker, and
sure.
And Fede Alvarez can learn a lot from him.
Yeah,
for sure. So yeah, again, Alien Romulus is probably one of the best sequels. I would rate it higher than Prometheus and Alien Covenant, and it even ties those movies in with the original Alien. It's well done, and it's very respectable. I mean, again, you can't top Alien or Aliens, let's face it. I mean, those two are done. I mean, Aliens was a huge surprise. It's really weird, Adam, that James Cameron directed it, but Ridley Scott never did, and apparently he was never asked to do either the sequel for Blade Runner or Alien.
Wow.
That's what I'm reading online, and of course he was he was definitely quote unquote pissed off, but he's actually grown to love Aliens over the years. But
yeah.
It puzzles me. I can understand Blade Runner because that tanked.
Right.
That was not a huge success. I mean, obviously it's become a huge cult classic now, but it was a disaster when it first came out.
Right.
But Alien was a huge hit.
Yeah.
I mean, they struggled for a few years to come up with a sequel, but you'd think have him direct it. I don't know why they didn't ask him. Maybe he said it. There might have been I'm too controlling or I'm too nitpicky, because I mean there were complaints on from like the cast in Alien when it got too cold. There was a lack of oxygen in certain scenes.
Right.
Maybe that's why, because he's such a stingent director, but at the same time he made a huge amount of money for the studio. Yeah, so I just found it kind of interesting. Why not ask him back?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, you would have to ask the people in charge at the time. But, I mean, it could have been a number of things. Maybe they just they figured that he'd be asking more money than they'd be willing to spend, and they just decided to go somewhere else.
Maybe. That's not documented, though. And, of course, Cameron just came off of Terminator, which was huge.
Yeah, I mean,
and unfortunately, Ridley Scott had Blade Runner, and then he had Legend, which bombed big time. So maybe
that could be it too. Who
knows?
Why take a chance on something that might fail?
At least offer it to him, or
it's funny, or maybe the rumors are true about how he behaved on set, and they just didn't want to deal with the headache again.
Maybe.
I mean, who knows? Again, that would be a question for someone on the business end, and
right.
We don't know anyone like that.
Right? No, we're not privy to that information. That's for sure. But Cameron did a great job with it. I mean, he really did. He really did a good job with the Aliens. But we're talking about Alien Romulus. It's in theaters. Definitely see it on the big screen. I mean, I didn't get to see it in IMAX, but I mean, I'm sure this would be a lot of fun in IMAX with the bigger screen, the bigger sound. Mm-hmm. I mean, sound, just like the original, plays a huge part in it as well. I mean, there's like literally the first like minute or two there's like complete silence.
Yeah.
And then the beeps, and then boom, you're in.
Yeah.
It struggles a little bit at the start, but once they get in there, they have to stop and get the gas. Once they're at Romulus and Remus, boom, the movie hits its stride and doesn't let up until the end. But it kind of struggles the first half, because the characters, you kind of just go with it. You don't care. For some reason, I didn't care about them as much as I did in the first one.
Yes.
And I don't know I think you had better. Obviously, the screenwriting has a lot to do with it. But either way, I don't want to get too nitpicky. I'm a snob enough when it comes to movies, but Fede Alvarez did a great job in writing a script and bringing Alien Romulus to the screen. Again, it's in theaters everywhere. What did you think? Did you see it? Comment below. Let us know what you think about Alien Romulus.
We'll see you next time on Scared for Reals.